Well, fraud is big business in this country. According to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, people here lose hundreds of millions of dollars each year to fraudsters. That's why this week we're doing a series on scams, what they look like, where they happen, who's being targeted, and what you can do to protect yourself. So last year, nearly 5,000 British Columbians reported falling victim to a scam. In total, those victims were ripped off $83 million. Only about 5 to 10% of victims actually reported their cases of fraud. And it's not just that fraud is on the rise, the scammers are also getting more sophisticated. Here at CBC, Erica Johnson with our Go Public team is inundated with emails from people who fell victim to scams, from bank fraud to romance scams to fake offers of employment. Erica has seen it all, and she's here to now talk about some of the scam trends that she's noticing and what everyone needs to know about how to spot them. So first of all, Erica, what's the most common type of scam you're hearing about nowadays?
Definitely scams involving people's bank accounts, either scammers who hack into your account and e-transfer money to themselves, or they move money from your account to their also fake bank account and then do a wire transfer to another country. We've also seen scammers who pretend they're a company hiring people for work. So they send the victim a check and then ask the person to deposit that check and use the money to buy something needed for the office, like office furniture. But the furniture website, of course, is part of the scam, and the check bounces after you've sent the money because it's fake and was never actually deposited into your account. So every single day we get emails that go public from people telling us they've been scammed. It's just out of control.
Wow. And given that you're hearing from so many bank victims in particular, what are the banks and maybe more importantly law enforcement doing about it?
Well, every big bank and a lot of other financial institutions have big fraud investigation departments, but the trouble is there's little transparency. So a bank might investigate after a customer gets a $3,000 e-transfer out of their account in a scam, and the bank will say, we've looked at it, we've decided you're to blame, case closed. And it's very, very difficult for the customer to fight back. Even when their cases are escalated, more often than not, the bank still wins. Partly it's because scammers are so sophisticated now. They can make it look like the e-transfer, for instance, is coming from your IP address. So the bank says it must be you sending the money. Partly, e-transfer fraud in particular is happening because it uses a system called Interac. We're all familiar with that. It's the only money transfer system in the world that uses email, and that can be hacked. Interestingly, the UK has passed legislation making the banks responsible for any fraud losses. So the banks have improved their security, but that hasn't happened here, Tanya. More often than not, we see the victim getting blamed. And then as for the police, there are not a lot of financial cybercrime investigators compared to other departments. And they say the perpetrators are often in other countries and they're very hard to pursue.
So given all that, what are some red flags people need to look out for?
Okay, your financial institution will never ask for personal or financial information over the phone or via text. Do not listen to people claiming there is an urgent matter regarding your bank account and that you have to provide information. Do not click on any links in an email or text from an unknown person or your supposed financial institution. Depositing a check does not mean the money is in your bank account. It can take 2 weeks or longer to actually clear. And lastly, change your email and banking passwords every 3 months.
Great tips there. And we can't wrap up before touching on a recent scammer who tried to trick you personally. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I was hit up on Instagram by a romance scammer. I knew right away he wasn't the real deal. He claimed to be an oil engineer working overseas. He quickly professed his love. Eventually, I called him out. I told him I was actually a journalist and I'd like to do an interview to find out why he does romance scams, how they work. And surprisingly, he agreed. He said he lives in Nigeria and he has to scam women to survive. Here in Canada, women and men lost over $50 million to romance scammers last year alone, so it's a huge problem. Some key red flags to protect yourself. Romance scammers tend to always be working overseas, so they can have an excuse later, claim they can't access their bank accounts and say they need your credit card information or need you to send them gift cards. They often have one of 3 professions. They say they're an oil engineer, a doctor, or they work in the military. They often claim to be widowed, and they quickly profess their love.
Wow, from a first-hand account right there. Thank you so much, Erica.
Good to talk to you, Tanya.
Erica Johnson is a senior investigative reporter and host of Go Public. If you have a story you want investigated, send the Go Public team an email at gopublic@cbc.ca.